executive MBA. I've had that post for 6 years now. I'm also a professor in the management department at ESSEC, Cergy-Pontoise. And so what we want to do today is to talk about leadership development and, of course, talk about leadership development in our program. On my left, I have Didier Defer. Didier will introduce himself in a minute, but Didier has a very important place in our program, in coaching a number of different types of small groups. So anyway, I'll pass over to Didier, who has extensive experience, and he'll introduce himself.
Yes, good afternoon. So Didier Defer. So my experience is mostly in managing and leading some large companies, and about 12 years ago we started in Paris and then extended to Europe our activity of coaching, executive coaching, and that gives me today some experience as to how people lead their company, how do people manage their company, and how they feel about it. Okay. Well, let's start with the idea of leadership. And leadership may mean different things to everyone, but we believe that it's important that we today have an idea of how we see leadership. Well, let me just suggest to you one definition which came from John Quincy Adams, a president of the United States a long time ago, who said, from his experience, if your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. So I suggest that we start with this type of exchange over this statement from John Quincy Adams, because very often leadership is confused with charismatic people, with people who can talk well, communicate extremely well. But is somebody who communicates very well, talks very well, is he necessarily a good leader? What do you think?
This question of charisma, which is the first part of our presentation, as you can see, faut-il être charismatique pour être leader? This is an important issue precisely because of the fact that charisma, the idea of charisma is the idea of seduction. And we tend to believe that good leadership necessarily involves these special personal qualities. In fact, what we do know about leadership and about people who inspire other people is that sometimes they inspire other people not because necessarily of their personal qualities, their traits of character or their special individuality. They also inspire people because the message which they transmit to people, the message which they transmit, or the vision which they transmit to people, is also something which inspires them, and it's something which people can believe in. So we know that indeed people can be inspirational because of the nature of their capabilities, but also people can be inspirational by what they do and by the way they communicate. And I think that this is an important distinction, because there's a tendency in discussing leadership to take what I would call a kind of heroic approach or a romantic view of leadership, in which you focus most of the time on special qualities. And some people believe, well, if you're not born with those special qualities, well, you can't become a leader. But both Didier and I don't take that view at all. We both take the view that it's actually about actions, the actions that you take on, the actions that you plan, and the way you confront diverse situations. Your charisma, or at least your capacity to inspire, is going to come through in the way you treat people and the way you react in diverse situations. Didier, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, and I will go a little further. Let's assume, bring a hypothesis which would be, as we do at l'ESSEC, that in every one of us there is a leader. For a very simple reason is that when there's a leader, there's automatically followers. There's no leader without followers. And everyone, almost everyone, maybe not everyone, but almost, every one of us has somewhere, sometime, a follower. We lead something. We get some people to do something that we think is the right thing to do. So when we talk about management, and we know that you're all concerned with management, and very often the question is raised is, what's the difference between a manager and a leader? My answer to this is that a manager is operational. A manager explains, a manager controls, a manager helps. A leader is almost a different job. A leader inspires, a leader motivates, a leader has a vision, a leader brings you wherever he thinks it's necessary to go. And when you go up in the ladder of any organization, you move less and less, or you are less and less a manager and more a leader. And what it means is that you are less and less on the field, you are less and less operational, and more in a phase where you have to observe, where you have to listen, where you have to think, where you have to find the time in order to really have a vision and show the other where to go. And this is not simple. It's not simple because it usually happens when you are 40 years old. You have been a very good manager, you are very operational, and then you are promoted. And it's difficult to be promoted whenever you find that the new world is a world of what you call often politics. It's difficult to understand, difficult to move in. You haven't been trained. It's just because you need more time, you need more observation, you need more listening, active listening, and that's a big part of the MBA program.
Yeah, I'd just like to follow this up, to maybe reformulate that in some ways. I think what Didier has put his finger on there is something that we show throughout the MBA program, which is that leadership is actually about finding resources in different situations. And as Didier said, as you go through your career, at certain points you move from leadership or management of groups, you move to bigger units, you move to departments, and then you may move to an entire organization. And the tasks, the challenges that are involved on those different levels are similar, but they're not the same. You know, there are differences which are important. Providing a vision for a small group is not the same thing as providing a vision and a strategy for an entire organization. So for those different types of challenges, people require different resources. And I think what we do in the program, especially through the coaching that we have, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but also the way we talk about leadership, we make sure that people see that it's a complex match between personal resources, the resources of the entourage of the person, and the situations that that person is confronted with. And when the situation changes, then there's a need for flexibility in finding the resources to deal with the new challenges. So leadership is a set of challenges for managers when they move to that level. And for those challenges, they need varieties of resources. And what I mean by resources, of course, is skills, capabilities, to communicate in a certain way, to change the way of communicating, and also when you have a different audience, to understand that you need to influence them in a slightly different way. Now, this means that the second question that we posed, qu'est-ce que c'est un bon leader? It means that what it means is that you can be a good leader in one situation, but when the situation changes, then you might not be able to find those resources, or you might have a problem in adapting to the situation. So the adaptation and the flexibility is a crucial issue. And I think that, and I'll bring Didier back in on this, I think that that adaptation, the capability of being flexible, this depends on how much you understand yourself, how much you understand yourself and your resources. And I think in the executive MBA, in the ESSEC and Mannheim executive MBA, we try to lead people towards that self-understanding, knowing that it's a program which lasts 18 months. More self-understanding, more capability to see how flexible you can or cannot be in different situations.
Well, I agree. Flexibility is a key talent today, because the world, the companies, everything is changing so fast that you really have to be what we call in French agile. But let me give you some of our experience us as coach. In 2008, over Europe, we interviewed 74 CEOs of different nationalities. 77% of them were below 100 employees, and then 33% over 500 employees. So that was a very good sample. And we asked them, what are the most important leadership characteristics that you think you? And they gave us 4. The first one is strategic ability. The second is people skills. The third is communication skills. And the fourth is courage, integrity, and decisiveness. Now, if I mention this to you, is because those are answers from people who are actually in leadership position, and for who it's not easy, because they always have to motivate and stimulate people. So strategic ability, I think that's something we learn in management program like the Executive MBA at l'ESSEC. Strategy, how to set a strategy, how to implement a strategy, how to share a strategy, how to communicate a strategy. People skill, that's really a talent that leader must have, is to have around them, surround themselves with people who are not only bright with a lot of skills, but also who have a sense of the team, who also have the sense of the responsibility, who feels that they are accountable for some task and accountable to some people, and who also have a lot of ethics. And this is a real challenge to find or to build a team of people who work together as opposed to fight against each other. Communication skills, well, you all know what it is. It's very simple. It's essentially to know how to communicate at the right time, in the right place, and with the right words. And then finally, courage, integrity, and decisiveness. This is key, because any leader in his life, and I had some experience before myself, has some time to make decisions which are not easy. There are decisions which sometimes goes against your own, I would say, not values, but your own emotions, or bring some very difficult emotion to deal with. When you have to lay off people, when you have to change strategy, knowing what will happen to some of your factories or other. It's a very difficult decision, but you must have the guts to do it, make the decision, and go all the way to implement the strategy which has been decided. And this is also something that in the Executive MBA we work on. People skill, obviously, is with all the courses on human resources. Communication skills, there's a lot included in the entrepreneurial project. And courage, integrity, decisiveness, that are part of the values of l'ESSEC, and we help you to really get all those talent and skills not away, but from deep inside yourself, and to be able to use them. So let's look at our third heading, which was the MBA and the development of leadership, le MBA et le développement du leadership. And I'd like to come back to the theme that Didier was just talking about when he presented those four qualities or capabilities from the survey. The first one, strategic ability. This is clearly something which, in large part, brings in rational analysis, the capability to understand the global situation of a company in its competitive environment, and to understand the challenges which exist at many different functional levels. So an executive MBA program will give you the vocabulary, it will give you the concept, it will give you the models, it will give you the mode of understanding of the main functions. So any executive MBA program
worth the money will be focused on in-depth knowledge of the different functions: marketing, finance, human resources, supply chain management, etc., etc. And it will also give you a synthesis of those. You leave the executive MBA with not only just a vocabulary and analysis of those different areas, but you'll understand les enjeux stratégiques. You will understand the role that they must play in the development of a strategic vision. So that's on the level of rationality. But let's also talk about the other thing that Didier was mentioning, which is people skills and communication capabilities. And I think that this brings in, of course, reason, because one can stand back and think rationally about one's own capabilities and the way you have an effect on people or you don't have an effect on people. You can stand back and use reason, but people skills, forms of communication and qualities like courage, these are very strongly connected with emotional understanding, the understanding of emotions. And what we try to do in the ESSEC Mannheim Executive MBA is give a large place to understanding emotions. That's why we treat the program as a period of kind of parenthèse, a parenthesis of 18 months during which people are going to develop emotionally their understanding of themselves and their capability to understand others. Now, so in other words, you've got on the one hand classes which are focused on rational analysis. You've also got other experiences which deal with the mastery or the control or the understanding of emotions. The way we do it in our program is to have a lot of group work and we have a lot of coaching. That's important. We have a lot of group work and we don't just put those groups together and leave them to work it out, because that's a recipe for disaster sometimes. We put those groups together and we give them coaching. And Didier has played a very active role in that coaching. So let's first say something about coaching, and I'll bring Didier in, and then in a moment I'll say something about what we do in terms of workshops like a negotiation, and also in the military workshop, the leadership workshop at Saint-Cyr, which is something very important to us. So Didier, coaching.
Yeah, well, coaching, as Alan just said, is quite important because it deals with you individually and collectively. When we thought about introducing coaching in the Executive MBA, it's because we know that there was a lot of transfer of knowledge from the professors to the participants and vice versa, but that each one of the participants were pretty weak as far as their own abilities were concerned, and we started with the idea that in each one of you there's a lot of things that you don't do or you think you cannot do just because you were always told or you always thought you couldn't do them. It was not your thing. And from the very beginning of your life, of our life, we're on a rail where we think that this is our way of doing things, or this is what we should do, and everything else is impossible. Well, the first part of the coaching is to basically help you to understand that you can do a lot more than you thought you could. But the coaching within the Executive MBA at l'ESSEC is divided in two parts. The first part is aimed at helping you work better in teams. Why is that important? Because more and more you work in your organization in project. You have a project leader and there's a group of people who usually don't know each other very well, or not as well as they should, and get together and have to share knowledge, have to find a common objective, have to agree on a way of working, have to make compromises. And we all know that it's quite difficult for each one of us to do these things. So the first coaching, part of the coaching is, how do you really optimize your added value to a team? and they are usually a team of 3, 4, 5 people, and they can even go to a team of 50 people, as Alan will talk to you later about. But how do you get the best out of you in order to contribute fully to that team? And it's not obvious. It's not obvious because we have to deal with our emotions, we have to deal with the relationship that we develop with other members of the team, and this sometimes really gives us some real challenge. The second part of the coaching is basically, as I mentioned before, is about you. Once you are in the middle of the program or you get to the end of the program, every one of you asks yourself the question, what do I do now? What do I do with all this knowledge, additional knowledge, with all this additional thinking process, decision-making process, all this wealth I have acquired during the MBA program? What do I do with it? And it's not necessarily the same thing as you thought when you started the program, okay? It may be very different, and most of the time it is very different because you have changed. You definitely have changed a lot by knowing yourself better, acquiring more knowledge, sharing with the others, and discovering very often some of your talents or some of some better way you do things just because you got some good feedback from the others. So that's very important. At that time, you have a personal coaching where you go and see coaches like myself and others, and we talk about what do we do with it? What do you do with all these things? Now, we don't tell you what you will do, but at least we have some type of soundboard where we have maybe sometimes the right questions or to make you feel maybe a little more comfortable with your decision-making process. So that's quite important, and it also helps you, as you already have understood, to develop your, let's say, talent of leadership, since the first follower you have when you are a leader, don't forget, is yourself. Since you are the one to bring yourself somewhere, and if you do a program like this, well, you obviously is for some reason, and the reason is that you want to bring yourself somewhere, and somewhere where you would like to be.
Yeah, I think what Didier has put his finger on there is something very important. The groups that we put into place in the Executive MBA, I mean, these are self-managing groups. People are on the same level, and it's a challenge for those groups to work and to do effective work together. And there are two main goals in the coaching. One goal, of course, is that the group produces good work. I mean, there's no point in having a group of people if they produce something which is mediocre or which is not as good as what each of them individually could do. That actually is sometimes a reason for frustration with groups. Of course, as many of you know, I mean, one of the problems is sometimes with a group is that at the end you sometimes think, well, I could have done something better than that on my own. So that's no good. And what you want from a group is a synergy in which the ideas and the inspiration of different people come together to produce something which is excellent, which is very, very good. So the coaching helps the groups to produce this efficiency, to produce this synergy. And the other thing is an important issue in self-management is it's not just the self-management of the group, it's the self-management of the individuals, because there's some individuals who feel maybe naturally that they want to be the leader for exercise A or B, a case in accountancy because they're an accountant, or a marketing case because they're a marketing person. Well, what they have to do is to show, they have to take a back seat sometimes. They have to be quiet, take a back seat, think about the group's goals, and exercise a certain kind of humility in not speaking out all the time. So this kind of dialectic, if you like, or this interaction between the leader and the follower, which is so important, which we mentioned right at the beginning, leadership as a process, this is something that you find in the groups themselves. And so you've got many, many experiences in the MBA where people are switching from a leadership role to a follower role, and they're getting a better understanding of the way leaders and followers interact. And the other thing that the coaching does is crucial, which is a moral point, which is in a self-managing group, mutual respect for rules which are agreed and for ways of treating each other and for norms of activity. These moral obligations, if you like, to respect each other, these are things which are important. You don't have to like each other in the group, but you do have to respect each other in the group. I mean, this is something which is very important. Comment on that, Didier?
Yeah, I will add something that, and you all know that leadership is not taking control, okay? A leader doesn't necessarily take control. A leader leads, so a leader stimulates. Great leaders get the best out of you. I have had several bosses in my life, and I would say out of all the bosses I had, about 2 of them were really great leaders, meaning that working next to them, you feel that you are great, you feel that you are good, you feel that you are competent, you feel that you are smart. And this is, to me, and to most of the people I know, leaders I know, is key, is stimulate the wealth out of you by just either communicating well, walking your talk, very important thing as for a leader. A leader, by definition, must walk his talk, at least a good leader, by stimulating in you whatever you have, and you're sometimes not even aware of it. But I would say, and at LESEC in the Executive MBA we talked about it, it seems to me that there are 3 things that we need to be not only a good leader, but to really be able to manage his own destiny. The first thing is, as Alan mentioned before, is humility. I mean, you'll get there in a program, any program, you'll get there and you are all equal, you're all the same. I mean, you're all at the same level. There's nobody smarter than any others. You all come with the same objective of learning and enriching yourself. That's very important. The second thing is tolerance. As also Alan mentioned, you will work in group, and sometimes you may be very annoyed by other members of your group doing things that you would do a different way, doing things that you don't think is the right way of doing it. But the tolerance is the ability to just participate to the doing with them in a different way that you would have done it. And this is a very good way to learn, because sometimes you think it's wrong. At the beginning, at least, you think it's wrong, and then you realize it's not wrong, it's just a different way. And then you realize, well, maybe this different way could be the right way, or one of the right way, and there's no right way, there are just different ways. And coaching contributes to this, to show you that there is not only one way to do things, but there's always at least 3 ways of doing things. And you then never know at the beginning if it is the right way or the wrong way. You only know at the end when you see the results. So this is very enriching. The third thing is generosity. And the generosity, what I call generosity, is the ability to share your knowledge. Each one of you has a wealth, is a source of wealth. And if you keep your knowledge, because you think that by keeping your knowledge you protect your position or you protect your power, you are wrong. The real power is the ability to share your knowledge. Again, the real power is to be a person who makes people around him or her smarter, better, and get the best out of the group. And this is key, and we work very hard in the program on developing these ideas.
Yeah, so the word enriching is a crucial word there, because what you will find in all MBA programs is certainly a similar type of structure. What we aim to provide in the second Mannheim Exec MBA program is a program which is not just a set of courses, but it's a rich experience, from the diversity of profiles, but also from the types of experiences which we present you with. I'll say a word rapidly about one of those, which is a little bit unusual, and that's Saint-Cyr. We have a leadership seminar at Saint-Cyr, and this is for some people are a little bit skeptical about the role of the military. But in fact, what we find in going to San Cyr is that the exercises that people are doing, these are a kind of continuation, in a way, of other things in the program. In other words, the exercises are about finding the resources to deal with the challenge. And the exercises are difficult sometimes because you don't know who's going to be the leader of the exercise. It's not clear what the solution to the problem is. And so the leader has to, right from the beginning, have a clear communication and also, if possible, a clear understanding of how the different skills of people can contribute to the collective goal. Not necessarily having the answer, but finding the answer through other people in the team. In other words, developing a kind of capability on the spot to communicate well, and that's something which that type of exercise really helps people with. Second interesting case is the negotiation workshop, because negotiation, which we teach really very well at ISEC, that's something where you've also got to plan and think about your interaction before it begins. Sometimes you have to do that very quickly. And so exercises are the best way of doing this. It's not an purely academic approach. It's education through action, both at San Cyr, both during the negotiation workshop, and also throughout the teamwork which is actually done during the year. I'm wondering whether we should answer one or two questions. Is there questions? Yeah.
Any questions yet?
No, perhaps not.
No.
Thomas Letcher, can you really learn tolerance in an MBA program?
Oh yes. Oh yes, you can. Oh yes, you can when you work in groups, and there are several groups where you're involved. First, there is what you call an MCT, which means that the professors bring you some cases, and you have to work on cases. You're about 5 or 6 of you, and let's just imagine that there's a case, and you are with your 5 friends there, and that case you know it absolutely by heart. I mean, it just happened to you in your company not long ago. And you know exactly what to do, or you think, it's a perception, you think exactly you know what to do. And then for whatever reason, the group of 5 or 6 decide that, well, they are not going to do the way you suggest. How hard it is. I mean, here you are, you're absolutely convinced that you have the answer, but they are not going to do it this way. And I think that's where you have to learn. You learn how to not only listen to them, but accept the way of doing it, different ways that you would do it, and then participate. And believe me, if you don't, they'll just manage for you to do it, because they'll put a lot of pressure on you, and then there's the coach and everyone. So you will learn a lot about yourself, your emotions, the way it works, how you work, and how to control the expression of your emotions, and how to be a little more tolerant. That's just one example.
So I hope you've understood that the way we approach leadership in the MBA is by stimulating a variety of experiences, by giving a great deal of importance to groups and the experience of working in groups, and overall providing a different set of stimuli, stimulating the participants in a number of different ways, not just intellectually, but also in the way they think about themselves and their emotions, and the way they manage emotions in group situations.
Okay, there's I see another question is what is the schedule of the MBA program and how many weeks? Is it really suitable for people that will still work at the same time? Well, I don't think that we really have enough time to go into the details. So if you don't mind, and this is on the program on the website. So let me answer the second question, which is quite interesting. Is it really suitable for people that will still work at the same time? It is a program which is made for people who still work at the same time. And every one of the participants, when they come and talk to us about the possibility of joining the program, everyone tells us, well, yeah, it's fine for the others, but it's not for us because we are too busy, we really work very hard, we'll never have the time. But by some extraordinary coincidence, there are always 50 people joining the program. So 50 people are able to do it. How are you able to do it? Just because look at your day-to-day work, look at your organization, look at how you could manage better your time, and that's your work. How can you better manage your time? Our work is to make sure that we are sufficiently flexible to allow you to get into the program. This is why ESSEC Mannheim MBA has two types of program, the weekly program and the thank you, and the modular program. Modular program is 1 week every 6 weeks, and the weekend program is every other weekend.
Yes,
every 2 weeks. Yeah. So on both, on your side, you have to work on it. Yes, I can. Okay, it's the yes, we can. You heard this before. And on our side, we try to adapt to your workload.
Yeah, and the choice between those two formats is a personal choice depending on your working situation and also your home situation. So in both cases, in the weekend program and the modular program, you have to juggle with or balance the demands of your family, the demands of your job, and the demands of the program. And you need to do that properly, to do it well. You need understanding. You know, you need to do it almost as a family or as a foyer in each case. So it's something the program has to be discussed in as wide a possible way before somebody thinks about committing the family, as it were, committing the family to the program, because it's a time management question, and it's a program which requires a lot of commitment.
There's another question coming from Romain. Can you comment on some famous management or company failures due to lack of leadership? Well, I think the past 5 years have shown us, okay, that some companies, mostly in America, initially when the crisis started with the big financial firms in New York failing. Now, was this a lack of leadership, or was this the wrong leadership? Again, as we said before, and I like to repeat it, leadership is just the challenge of leadership is to inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more. Now, did the people in New York, mostly on Wall Street at that time, inspire others to dream more? Yes, definitely. Okay, to get richer, there's no question about it. Learn more, they became very innovative, very creative. Do more, there's no question, they did a lot more and speculated a lot more. And become more, I'm not sure of that, because they became much less. So leadership is also a dangerous thing. I mean, we all have example of leadership in terms of war, in terms of destruction. We also, not only in New York, but also have in France some good example. It's difficult to give a name like this, but remember years ago the Crédit Lyonnais had some problems. Okay, and I can say now because it's common, but Monsieur Aberer was considered at that time like a great leader. I think the Crédit Lyonnais went through some pretty bad crisis. I remember that La Générale des Eaux and Vivendi had also some great leader, and one of the leader is now living in New York and has his own firm, but I don't think he was very successful. So there are a lot of different examples. So leadership has to really, to leadership we should really add a sense of ethic. Ethic is very, very important, and the executive program of ESSEC Mannheim, we really stretch the fact that ethic is a key element to good leadership.
And just for my part, to come back to the quotation, and to agree with Didier, in fact, dictatorships and certain types of sects, in fact, that people get involved in, they follow inspiring leaders, and they certainly dream more and learn more and do more, but actually they become less. They don't become more. And so, to go back to the beginning, charisma is something which is interesting, but it's very dangerous. We have plenty of examples of charismatic dictators, and if you follow charisma and you follow inspiration, but you lose your identity as an autonomous human being, you become less. You don't become more. And I think that's why the quotation from Adams is a good quotation, because it includes the idea of becoming. It includes the idea of becoming more human and developing as a human being, which is exactly the humanistic message of our schools, and the humanistic message that we've tried to put over to you today.
Let me just give a bit of my conclusion. Again, I would like to stretch the fact that the first person you have to lead is yourself. Take your destiny, take charge of your destiny, your own destiny. Don't wait for your company or whoever, everybody to really decide what you will do in life. Your second followers is your family, your children. When you raise children, there's a lot of leadership there, getting the best out of them, okay, giving them values, stimulating them. And then the group around you, the people you work with, and try to really observe how they work, how you are part of the group, what's your added value to the group, how you can really stimulate people around you to get the best out of them. And then I think that without really knowing about it, you'll start becoming a great leader.
Okay, so I can only encourage you, those people out there listening to us, I hope you've understood the message of the values behind our MBA program, what we're trying to do. Thank you for listening. And I encourage you to get from the stand and from the websites as much information as you can, but nothing substitutes for coming to see us, because the values that we have are best expressed in interpersonal contact. So come to one of our information sessions where you'll probably find one of us or maybe both of us present, and we'll be only too happy to carry on the discussion with you about the nature of the program.
Sorry, just last, for all the details about the program that we could not give to you today, we advise you to visit the stand ESSEC and Mannheim at the Salon, which is being actually opened by education. It's my turn to say thank you very much for listening and for your questions, and good luck to you.